You are listening to Be Amplified, the podcast with Brie and Thais, episode number 1. Hey Amplifiers, welcome to Be Amplified, the podcast. My name is Thais.
And I'm Brie Seeley. We are the co-founders of the Amplify Collective,
a movement aimed at radically disrupting how purpose-driven women connect and operate in the world.
Because we believe it's not just what you do, but who you are that matters.
Each week, join us for messages and interviews that will leave you feeling amplified and ready to change the world.
Let's do this.
Today, this is our very first podcast.
Woo!
And Brie here, she has a champagne bottle.
We're celebrating. I mean, this is kind of an inaugural event, right?
So let's do it. Let's pop
ready?
Open this bottle.
Okay, we're hoping this doesn't go all over. Ready? Coming. Hold on. Welcome to the Be Amplified podcast.
Wow, that was amazing and effective and extremely loud. So she's going to pour us some champagne because we are in real celebratory mode. Brie and I have been wanting to launch our podcast. Hear the fizz.
Ooh.
We've been wanting to launch this podcast for quite some time now, but we needed some things to align in our lives and in our business for it to happen. And life has finally aligned itself and it's time to celebrate. So cheers, my love.
Cheers, lady.
Let's do this.
Cheers to us.
Oh, good champagne.
And to our listeners, thanks for being along for the ride with us, guys. We promise that, our goal with this podcast is to really bring you some mind-blowing, authentic conversation. This is not going to be a podcast that's like interview style. It's literally going to be us, riffing with each other and riffing with guests and really bringing you some heartfelt content is different than anything that's being discussed.
We really want to talk about what it looks like to amplify your life, literally take your life from where you are to the next level. And every single guest that we have, every conversation that Brie and I have before the podcast is going to be on what you need to do and what you need to know so you can live an amplified life.
So before we get into too much of the nitty gritty, we think it's really important that you learn about us and that you learn about what we're creating and what Amplify even is. So wanted to introduce ourselves to you, and we're going to do it in a way that's maybe a little different. I'm going to introduce you to Thais.
All right, bring it on.
So Thais and I are co-founders, and she is one of my best friends here in Los Angeles. And Thais is really probably one of the most passionate leaders and teachers that I think I've ever met. So she teaches spirituality. She teaches women how to lead a badass life. She teaches yoga. And really, more than anything, I think Thais just really teaches what it looks like to have a really open and compassionate heart in the world. And so, yes, she's a writer. Yes, she's a teacher. Yes, all these things. But really, she's just a beautiful woman leading the way for other beautiful women to do great things in the world.
Oh, that's so beautiful. How do I follow up with that?
Pretty easily. I mean, I'm sure you can think of something.
I'm sure. Well, let me introduce you to my business partner and my soul sister in this life, Brie Seeley. She is just such a radiant soul, and we're going to dive a little bit into our story later and how we met. But Brie is such a blessing to the world. She runs 2 women's movement here in LA, not just the Amplify Collective, but also the Inspirational Woman Project. And I think this project, the Inspirational Woman Project, is a reflection of Brie's beauty because she decided she didn't want to just feature herself. She didn't want to just stand on stage and talk her truth, even though she has so much to share. But she felt like she needed to create a platform for every single woman in this world to feel inspirational. So she coaches, teaches, writes, all that good stuff around how to be inspirational, which is just fantastic because we need more inspired women. And so she's really created a platform, not just to elevate herself, but to elevate the world. And it's been my privilege and my honor to be in this journey with her and to learn from her and to be in collaboration with her with what it looks like to be amplified in our own way and come together in a really brilliant way. So we both lead our own businesses. And that's one of the things that makes us unique. We're not just business partners in this, and this is all that we've got. We have 2 businesses that we run. Well, Brie kind of runs 5 billion businesses.
Not really. I mean, that's an exaggeration.
I mean, maybe just a little. But yeah, I mean, that's the power of the Amplify Collective and what we're doing is that we're really creating something based on our experience running our own business and being entrepreneurs. I mean, I've ran my business for 4 years and Bree has been a fashion designer, and she did that for how long before you got into coaching?
I think it was a good 6 or 7 years. I had my fashion business. So, I mean, between the two of us, we have over 10 years of entrepreneurial experience and, over 50 years worth of experience being women.
Yeah. Over 50 years.
So good.
Oh, we're so good. So that's what we're going to bring to you. And let's dive just a little bit into what is the Amplify Collective, because many of you guys are listening may be wondering, well, what is this business that you guys run together? Bree, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So we founded the Amplify Collective together last year, completely on accident.
Seriously, on accident.
Like, seriously, we say that and people are like, how can you start a business on accident? And we're like, well, Thais was just throwing a dinner event and then she got food poisoning and then I stepped in to like co-host it. And then it was amazing and expansive and we did it again. And then we did it again and again and again. And now we've hosted 15 sold out events in 9 months or something ridiculous like that. So the Amplify Collective was initially founded because, Thais was sick of the conversations and the shallow connections happening in the networking industry. And so we kind of created this intentional unnetworking community to help purpose-driven women live an amplified life.
Because it's so easy to get confused with who we are and what we do, especially in this very masculine-driven society where your worth is attached to what you do. And so you show up to these networking events, right? And all these people, all they want to do is see you as dollar signs, and they just want to sell you and push their business card up your butt and make a sale, and it doesn't feel good. And it's because as women, we really have this desire to show up in a feminine way. And in the feminine way, just who we are is worthy enough. Just in our being, we are worthy. And so the unnetworking way is really an introduction to a different way of connecting with other women, where we first introduce ourselves and connect to each other in a heart space, in a deeper way, where you talk about what you're passionate and what you're excited about. And then, of course, that's ultimately, eventually going to lead to what you do. But what you do isn't the only thing that you are.
It's not the be-all, end-all of your existence in the world.
Exactly. And by the time you get to talking about what you do, the person is more interested in actually learning about you, because you've set points of connection beyond just the doing.
Beyond just a job title.
Exactly.
One of our mantras is, job titles do not build relationships.
Yeah. When you hide behind what you do, you really stump growth. You don't allow for actual intimate connections. And so that's what we've created through our dinner parties and through our events. And now we're expanding into a beautiful membership group of women who want to explore the unnetworking way in an empowering way. These are entrepreneurs. These are business owners. These are corporate women who just want to create a community in LA specifically right now, because we're building LA.
We'll be expanding,
no doubt. But build a community in LA that's deeper than just what they do, so that when they leave their job or they leave whatever it is that they're doing, they still feel supported and heard and taken care of and seen.
Yeah, I think that's, for me, one of the biggest things is that women want to be seen past what we do. We want to be seen for who we are, where our heart's at, what we're creating in the world. And what we found is that in creating the Amplify Collective, we've nurtured a really beautiful space for people to do that. And in the meantime, we've been doing just a ton of research about what's happening in the world today and how, online connections are just not where it's at. And we found staggering statistics on loneliness and companionship. And I think, so we just read an article last week about how in the 80s, the average human being said they had 3 people that they could rely on in their lives. 3. 3 really true, solid.
Which, may I add, is a pretty low number.
That's a low number. And here's the worst part. As of 2004, the average person reported having 2. Which means that the trend is that we have less and less and fewer support systems within our lives. So from here on out, it's only going to 1 if we continue on the same trajectory. And so what if we were to do it differently? What if we were to build build connection first, and then do business? What would that look like? And how would that change who we are as human beings?
Because your husband is not a support system. Right? I mean, your husband's one person. He can't be your entire net. I'm assuming that's who that is, your significant other, your partner, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it is that's in your life. We can't just rely on one person for our entire emotional well-being, especially what happens if they're the person that we need support around. Where do we go? We can't just always go to our mothers. I mean, I'm assuming that's the second person, our moms, you know? So it's time for us to open the net. It's time for us to really learn what sisterhood looks like. And Bree and I are honored to pave the way for you and what it looks like to be in sisterhood, to be in partnership, in this business capacity, but also in a friendship capacity, and lead the way of what it looks like to connect in an intimate way. So that's what you can expect from us through our podcast, is really heart-centered, badass facts and truths and conversations, and just a lot of love and nourishing around this idea of living an amplified life and being the woman that you've always wanted to be, and really understanding the spiritual aspects of your higher self and how we can tap into that and how we get in our own ways and what we can do to move beyond it.
So one of my favorite things about this podcast is that we have zero plans for every conversation. We start every podcast with one question, and that question spirals into this beautiful conversation with our guests. And the thing that I love about the question that we ask is that the answer is literally different for every single person.
Literally.
It's so different. And we're about to ask each other this question so that we can explore it with you in this first podcast. But it's a fun exploration, because what we want is we want you to figure out what the answer for this question is for you. And hopefully by hearing us talk about it and by hearing all of these other, experts and influencers in the world talk about it, that you'll be able to craft an answer for yourself that will then help be a guiding principle for you in the world.
And if anytime you're listening to our podcast and you're feeling inspired, share your takeaway using #BeAmplified. #BeAmplified. Well, we're going to be checking that hashtag. We would love to see you and support you in our community. You are now in our community as a listener. So share your takeaways. Share it with the community. Share it with the world. You get to create your own community by sharing, by putting your truth out into the world. That's how it starts.
Yeah, and Thais and I are both very actively engaged in our Twitter. So
we do love Twitter.
When we respond to your tweets, it's not an assistant. It's not, a virtual assistant in a different country or whatever. It's literally the two of us. So we love engaging in conversation with women. We love the connection that comes from it. We also love taking our online conversations offline. But if you're not in Los Angeles, we super understand. So anyways, I'm really excited to dive into this. And I am going to ask Thais first. I'm going to put the pressure on her first. So that we can open up this cool, fun conversation.
Let's do it.
You ready?
I'm ready. Born ready.
So, Thais, what does it mean to you to live an amplified life?
I don't have notes on this. I did not prepare for this question ahead of time.
This is why I took the initiative to ask you first, because I don't have an answer for this yet either.
I just love the idea of an amplified life. I love the word amplify. To me, it just means how can you take your life to make it mean about something that's beyond you? How can you amplify the world through the vessel that you have of your body? I'm a spiritual teacher, and everything that I believe is happening outside of us is a reflection of what's happening inside of us. And so we always have the opportunity to ask ourselves, how am I holding myself back? How am I creating the circumstances that are in my life? How can I do the inner work to change the outer results? And so for me, living an amplified life means, oh my gosh, I have a responsibility to really be a teacher of love, because everything we say and do teaches the world what we believe. And if you believe in love, my love, then you need to teach it out into the world, and you do it through your actions. So at any time that your actions are out of integrity with your beliefs, that's where the work begins. If you believe in abundance, but you're acting from a place of lack. If you believe in the universe, but you're acting from a place of oneness, or a place of loneliness, or a place of fear. Yeah. Then that's your opportunity to really make sure that you are acting from a place of love, so that you can teach that out into the world. So does that answer the question? I think that's what I believe is living an amplified life, is being in integrity, doing everything you're going to say you're going to do, and doing it from a place of love, and really being a vessel for the divine truth that is within you, and using your voice to amplify the message of the world.
I love that.
I think that's pretty powerful.
I think that was good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So how about you, Brie? What does it mean for you to live?
Wait, I thought we were talking about you more.
No, I'm good.
Wait, I have to have an answer now?
Yeah, you have to have an answer now. What does it mean for you to live an amplified life?
I think for me, you know, for so long I lived from my head. I lived from my neck up. I lived
What? I have no idea what you're talking about.
from this super disconnected place where, like, I literally couldn't feel my heart and I couldn't feel my truth, and I didn't know what that looked like. And I lived it from a very hard, forceful, pushy, aggressive place. And so for me to live an amplified life now, I do the best I can to filter everything through my heart. I filter everything through my truth, and I really live from a place of passion in my business, in my personal life, in just everything. If I'm not passionate about something, if it's not a fuck yes to me, then it's a no. And so living an amplified life to me is really being in alignment with my heart and with my desires and with my purpose, and taking all of that boldly out into the world.
I think that's really powerful, and I think you do that so beautifully every day.
Thanks. I do my best to take bold action every day. It's like, you know, one of those things that I preach it to my clients. And so in order for me to tell other people to do it, you know, I first have to swallow the pills myself. So definitely bold action is a huge piece in the mix.
I love it. So for you listening, right? Like, what does it mean for you to live an amplified life? Let us know. Share with us. Use #BeAmplified so we can find you on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, and let's share it with the world what it really, really can look like when we amplify each other and we support each other and we create something that's really aligned with our heart and our mind and our body and our spirit.
So one other little thing that Thais and I wanted to do in this first podcast is allow you to get to know us a little bit better. So we each kind of wanted to share, or I guess I told Thais that we would just be sharing 3 like little nuggets about ourselves that no one knows. So should we volley? Should we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
So Brie, why don't you go first this time? Why don't you share with us?
Damn it.
What is one thing that no one knows about you? Well, maybe not no one. Maybe the public doesn't know about you.
True. I always have problems with questions like this. I can never think of anything.
I have one for Brie.
Okay, go.
Okay, so she's gluten-free. And when she comes over to my house, she can't use my toaster. And so she has to use my broiler and my stove.
That is a fact.
When she makes her bagels with cream cheese for dinner. So that's a fun fact that the public probably doesn't know about Brie Seely.
That is very true.
You're welcome.
So now I'll share one about Thais.
I don't think I signed up for that.
So as I'm making my gluten-free bagel in her broiler just now, she looks at me and says, I never truly realize how much gluten I eat until I'm around you.
Yeah, well, I'm always somehow, because I always want to share what I'm eating so that she doesn't have to make her own dinner. And then I realize everything I'm eating has gluten. So I can never share with her, which is fine because I'm an only child. That's a fun fact.
That is a
so
fun fact.
I am an only child, and I am in many ways the typical only child where I don't know how to share all that well. So especially food. And so, see, I'm trying to be the bigger person here, Brie, by sharing with you. And I can't because I'm eating all things gluten. And you know what? I think that's okay.
I mean, I know how terrible gluten makes me feel, so you can have all the gluten.
I can have all the gluten.
All the gluten.
Okay, so I am an only child. Here's another fun fact. I was born in Brazil, which is what makes me a fast talker. I feel like a lot of foreigners talk fast. So I'm a fast talker. And I often get my words wrong. You know, like I'll mess up verbs and say the wrong verb. And it's not because I'm stupid, people. It's because I'm foreign. And so I basically use that I'm foreign for any time I make a speaking mistake. Given though I am impeccable in my spelling and grammar, I'm so good at it because my dad, when I was growing up, anytime I wanted to know how to spell a word, he would make me lug out the 10,000 page, 30 million pound dictionary and make me look it up. And I didn't like him for it at the time, but now I'm the best speller in the world. So, I make some speaking mistakes, but I'm a brilliant writer. You win some, you lose some.
So true.
So how about you? What are some of your fun facts?
So another little known fact about me is that I went through a phase.
Oh, goodness.
Where I literally would only wear pink.
No way.
Yeah.
You were like the pink lady of LA.
Well, not that bad. I mean, it was like a pink top with like a pair of jeans or something. But I want you to guess at what age I was when I went through this phase.
I'm scared that it's something like 25. Bree's face right now.
Close.
Really? You are like
23.
That's pretty older to be in a pink phase.
I mean, I've gotten rid of a lot of my pink clothes.
I'm not judging, by the way.
She's judging.
I'm judging.
It's fine. So that's one of my little known facts.
Okay, let's keep going because this is fun. So one fun fact about me is that I'm actually, so I am a yoga teacher and I love the yoga practice. But my favorite style of yoga or tradition of yoga is Bhakti yoga, or the yoga of devotion. And I'm actually a huge devotee of Hanuman. For those of you who know about the monkey god, it's a little weird because he's a monkey. And you're like, why am I praying to a monkey? It's not like one of the cool deities like Lakshmi or, the women goddesses that are really cool and rad. I mean, Hanuman is like this tiny little monkey. So it may seem a little weird. I mean, we have a Hanuman right here sitting in front of us, and Bree goes, is that a dog?
I asked why we had a dog hanging out with us.
Because he looks a little dog-like with his monkeyness. But here's why I love Hanuman. All right, there's many reasons why I love Hanuman. But one of my favorite stories about Hanuman is that, he was a incarnation of God in the Hindu tradition. All right, we're talking Hindu here. So he's a reincarnation of God, and he had to jump over the ocean to find the missing woman in the story of the Ramayana. He had to jump over the ocean to Sri Lanka from India, okay? And all of the monkeys around him were like, oh, I can jump 100 yards. I can jump 200 yards, but that's clearly not enough to jump an ocean. And the other monkey person thing went up to Hanuman and was like, Hanuman, like, you should jump, you should go. And Hanuman goes, I can't jump an ocean. Like, I'm a monkey. Like, I can't possibly do that. Even though he knew that the burden, the weight of the world lied on him jumping this ocean, he truly believed he could not do it. And it took a little bit of a convincing. It took some articulation of his greatness for him to remember that he's a god. And once he remembered that he was God, he jumped the ocean and saved the queen Sita from the big bad wolf type situation in the story. But what I love about that is that how often do we forget our own power? How often do we forget that we are divine, that we are stardust, that we are really, really cool and really special and powerful and limitless? And we forget it all the time in the midst of struggle, in the midst of pain, and we pretend that we're small. And so Hanuman reminds me all the time, don't pretend you're small. Don't pretend that you are not divine. And when you remember, when you know who you are, you know how to act. And that is one of my favorite sayings of all time. So that's a fun fact about me. I love Hanuman. And that's why he's going to be sitting here watching us, blessing us today.
So I will share one of my favorite stories now.
Go for it.
You ready?
Born.
So ever since I was a little girl, and I don't even know the first time I ever watched the movie, but I've always been obsessed with The Wizard of Oz. Like, obsessed.
Who's your favorite character?
I don't know if I have a favorite character, but
is it
just
the lion? Like
the whole movie. And I was actually at home recently, and my mom's starting to clean out, all of her stuff because, we're adults now and they're getting ready to retire and they want to sell the house and get rid of all our stuff. And seriously, like boxes upon boxes upon boxes of Wizard of Oz stuff.
Wow.
Like
with your pink stuff?
No, this was before the pink stuff.
I know, but they probably cleaned up some of the pink stuff too, right?
So I have just always loved the story of the Wizard of Oz. Like I used to read books about the behind the scenes stuff and how, the makeup that they used on the original Wicked Witch was like, it was I don't remember now, but it was based out of a metal, and it gave her like toxic poisoning because they were putting it all over her body. Like, I used to read all the stuff about it. And I think, now as an adult, as I'm looking back on it, one of the things that I really connect with, is the very end when the good witch says to her, it was in you all along.
Oh, powerful.
And that to me is one of my stories that I always remind myself, because I do a similar thing where I downplay my power and don't recognize the greatness that's within me. And, I'm just Brie. Like, I'm just small town Minnesota Brie. Like, there's nothing special about me. I'm not the great, whatever in the world. And that's one of the parts of that story that I just really, really resonate with, is that we all have the power within us, and it's there now. There's nothing that needs to change about who we are or what we're doing in the world. And so yeah, a little bit of a Ruby Slipper obsession. I saw them once. They live in DC at the museum. There's a museum in DC that has
There's
the
a
Ruby
lot
Slippers.
of museums in DC.
I know, it's in that whole
it's
in that whole strip.
Yeah.
The Smithsonian. And I've actually been to like Judy Garland's home. She grew up in Minnesota.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of a Wizard of Oz fanatic.
You know what else Brie is a fanatic of?
Champagne?
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, well, not necessarily Darth Vader, but...
Okay, well, we're both Star Wars junkies. Let's be real.
I mean, we love Star Wars. So actually, this is a good question. Brie, if you could choose any color lightsaber, what would your lightsaber be?
Oh, so Tice's boyfriend sent me this link about what each lightsaber means.
Oh.
I forget what the colors were.
Me too.
I feel like I said purple.
Oh.
Like, there's a specific meaning for all of them.
I like yellow.
What side of if you're on the rebellion or if you're on the dark side?
Obviously, we're on the light side.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously. So let's see. What else? This is fun, huh? What else? What other fun facts do we want to share? Well, how about this? Brie and I we became friends really at second sight. I mean, it was kind of love at second sight. It was not love at first sight, not because I looked at her and I was like, oh, no, not her. It was just simply, we were both in a workshop setting. We were both there with a lot of baggage that we had to release. I was in the transition of moving to LA, and
I was in the transition of shutting down my fashion brand.
Yeah, so we were both kind of dealing with some stuff that we had to release. But when I did move to LA, Brie was the first person I called, and we got lunch, and that's when our friendship was born. And then Amplify was born about a month later, and it's been a pretty brilliant journey.
Yeah. So what has been your favorite memory or experience so far since leading the Amplify Collective?
Good question. I have to say it would be our first dinner party. So it was not the one where I got the food poisoning. That was before Amplify was born. It was that night that the idea for Amplify was born. But the first dinner party that was officially under the Amplify Collective, we had 14 women show up. And the way we structure our dinner parties is that we don't tell people where it is till 48 hours before. So people from all over LA, and for those of you who live in LA, know what a big deal that is to be coming from Venice to drive to Burbank at 6 p.m. at night. It's a big deal to be driving across town and dealing with the traffic. And yet these women do. There's women that come from Long Beach, that come from, Sherman Oaks, that come from downtown, all over to be in our dinners. And so, yeah, first one, I sat there and I looked around and I realized, oh my goodness, like these women came because this idea is really changing the way we network, and it's really going to create something pretty big. And I think it was the first one because, before you do it, it's just an idea. So the first one, it's an actual physical representation of an idea, and I think it's a pretty magical moment. How about you?
My favorite moment was the second dinner party, actually. So the other cool thing about each of our dinner parties is that we have a theme. So every month we have this specific concept that we're discussing, and we come with questions and we get the women to all explore them. And I will never forget this dinner party. So our theme, it was October, our theme was vulnerability. And we had the women say their names and share something super vulnerable about themselves, something that they weren't necessarily comfortable sharing. And within, I think it was like the third woman was in tears, sharing something that she thought was so foreign and so full of shame for her. And she was like crying and had a hard time getting it out. And once she said it, there were at least 3 women around the table that said, "Oh my God, I've done that exact same thing before."
You should have seen the look of relief in her face when she realized how not alone she was.
Yeah. And it was just such a powerful moment for me that these 14 women who did not know each other, I don't think there were a few women at the table that knew each other, but for the most part, no one knew each other. And all of the sudden, we had this brilliant camaraderie and this instantaneous connection between the women sitting at the table just because they'd had a shared experience.
I think that's pretty powerful.
It was seriously the most humbling moment. And I think that was when I knew that we were onto something big.
Yeah.
And that's really when Thais and I kind of started kicking it into overdrive to make sure that this concept didn't go lost, that it didn't go forgotten, and that we were really truly using it to revolutionize, for now Los Angeles, but eventually the nation. And
I mean, we've thrown 200 people events. We've thrown, 10 dinner parties at this point? I mean,
plus or minus, yeah.
We're selling them out 2 months, 3 months in advance.
Right now we're sold out 3 months in advance.
So it's it's working. This is important. And, speaking of vulnerability, being vulnerable and being a vulnerable leader is one of the things that we both are so passionate about. So how about, Brie, you want to answer a very vulnerable question?
I don't know, do I? Tell me what the question is, and then I'll let you know if I'm going to answer it or not.
All right, deal. So, we talked about what it means for us to live an amplified life. And I think it's a lot easier to say it than to do it. So what do you think has been for you the biggest challenge that gets in your way in leading or living the version of amplified life that you want to live?
I think for me, there's 2 things. The one is that there's so many aspects of my life that I've found really hard to have like a role model or a mentor for, because a lot of the stuff that I want to do hasn't really been done before. Mm-hmm. And so it's really hard. Like, I don't have someone to model after. And because I don't have someone to model after, there's a lot of days where I wake up and I'm like, what do I even do? Like, how do I even make this a reality?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of my things. Another one of my things that's been present for so long, although is less now because, I have you, is that being an entrepreneur a lot of days just feels like this terrible, lonely, desolate existence.
Yeah, we somehow love it. Like we do. Somehow love it.
And there's, when I lived in Washington, I had I'll never forget, it was this one week in January, I had a 6-day stretch where I did not leave my house.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about unhealthy.
Yeah.
So I think those have been my 2 challenges. And, I'm a very self-aware person and know of them. And so I do a lot to not fall into the trappings of them. But yeah.
I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
How about you? What's your biggest challenge in being amplified?
So I'm going to be real honest with you guys because I think you guys deserve this. But it's stuff that I don't like talking about too often because this is so real for me in so many ways, on so many levels, every day. And it's something that I know how to navigate through. This is the beauty about doing this work, is that we know what we have to do. We know we need to eat more vegetables and drink more water. We know this mentally, but there's a difference between, this is what I call it in my work, between mentalizing it, right, having it in your mind, and internalizing it and having it be who you are. So one of the lessons that I'm learning through this incarnation, through this life experience, is learning how to step into my power without comparing myself to others. I can really give other people my power by comparing how brilliant they are and how good their stuff is and how much lack my stuff has, because it does not live up to what they do and how they look at. And it can get debilitating. And it's actually, because I'm also very self-aware, and this is the work that I do, I've also come to realize that comparitis for me is a form of resistance. So it's a lot easier when I'm in the verge of something huge and something big and something exciting. It's easy for me to then compare myself to others and get debilitated and not do it than for me to take action and quantum leap myself and go to the next level. So now, awesomely, I get to check myself out, check myself before I wreck myself. I know that when I am in comparitis mode, it's because I'm resisting something great within me, which is great, but it can still be tough sometimes, especially the more successful you become, the more these challenges become real in your life. I don't know who decided that this idea that the more wealth and success you accumulate, the easier life is. It just means that you have more to risk. At first you're making pennies in your business and you have very little to risk, and yet you still feel like you have your whole life to risk. And then pretty soon you're making millions of dollars and you have a whole team now that you're risking. I love the show Billions on Showtime. He's a billionaire, right? And he runs this huge company. And I love the idea of having $1 billion, but it also comes with 1 billion responsibilities. I mean, when you're changing the lives of billions of people, you have a lot of responsibility. So you want to make sure that you're checking your stuff now, because it's just going to get bigger as you get more successful. Not to daunt you, but just to know that this stuff doesn't go away. It comes back in different forms. So for me, the big one is comparitis.
So, and I think that one of the brilliant things that Thais and I have managed to create through the Amplify Collective, between being, the co-founders, is that we have this really beautiful relationship where if Thais isn't checking herself, I get to check her.
Yeah, thanks, Brie.
Well, and she does it for me too. I mean, we have this really great, and you'll see this a lot in the conversations coming up in the Amplify podcasts, about how we hold each other accountable and how we really truly don't let each other slide on our shit. Like we really encourage each other to be our amplified selves every day.
So let's talk specifics, Brie. What are some things that we do, that you do and I do for each other that supports living our amplified selves?
I think more than anything, Thais and I both believe that as much as you're looking outside of yourself at the circumstances that are happening in your life, there's always an internal component to it. So you can, blame someone else for this or that, but at the end of the day, the reality is that you have played some part in it. And so, a lot of what we do for one another is mirror, like, okay, so you're upset about this person did blah, 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 or said blah, blah, blah. What is your responsibility in that situation? Who are you being? What did you do to cause this situation to happen? And how can you be a better person through, the process of healing that situation?
It's radical self-responsibility, and it's doing it from a place of total compassion, because when you do it from a place of belittling or lack or fear, it turns into self-critic, and that doesn't help anyone. So it's important that when you're giving and receiving feedback to yourself and to others, that you are doing it from a place of love, or it is going to be received and internalized as a place of hate, especially to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the greatest things that we do for one another is we have zero judgment. Thais will call me on my shit, and she's calling me on my shit because she loves me enough to tell me that. Not because she's judging me or because she thinks I'm bad or weak or whatever. She does it because she wants me to live my amplified life, and I do the same for her.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's pretty powerful about what we do, which we do almost every single day, is we're always celebrating our wins. And we're always with our champagne, but we're always texting each other like, we got 1 more sale, we got 10 more sales, we got 5 more likes, we got 10 DVD. And it seems like nothing, like, oh, what's 5 likes or what's 1 sale? But when you celebrate even the tiniest thing, what you're saying to the universe is, I want more of it. And that's why a lot of the abundance mindset books will say, every time you even see a penny, pick it up and say to the universe, thank you, universe, for the abundance that you bring me, even if it's a penny. Because when you say thank you to a penny, you say thank you to hundreds of dollars. So for us, every like, every milestone, every ticket sold, every $100 that we make, $1,000 that we make, we see it as a moment of celebration. And when we are in a constant state of celebration all day, I mean, that's the energy that we vibe. That's the energy that we thrive in, and we do big things because we're always celebrating.
And we have more big things to do because of the celebrations we've had. You know, it's almost like what came first, the chicken or the egg. You know, we celebrate what's happened and in turn have more to celebrate. And then once we have more to celebrate, we celebrate more, which then gives us more to celebrate. It's like this constant snowball effect that has really caused the Amplify Collective to basically kind of spiral out of control over the past, like, I don't know what, 9 months?
Yeah. It's been really fun. And it's a lot of fun working together because we're always in that state. And when I'm not feeling like being in that state, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or whatever, then I have Bree who's always in that state. And if she's not,
well, I'm not always in that state.
No, you're not. But when you're not, I am. So it's a great balance, so that we always have a partner who is pulling our energy up and reminding us of our brilliance and reminding us of the work that we got to do and how it's not about us and it is about us. And it's a real brilliant partnership.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the next question?
Do you have another question?
I have another question.
She's not writing these down, so she's literally hitting me with these like out of the blue. And then okay, ask.
All right. So the question is, we talked a lot about living an amplified life. And I think the best way that we can know what it looks like to live an amplified life is to see it in others. So I know that you mentioned one of your challenges is not having all of the mentors that you wish you had and examples. But if you had to pick one person in this world who you think truly exemplifies an amplified life, who would it be and why?
So this is a little difficult for me because I feel like I have people in like the different aspects of my life. So there's like one couple that I know that lives the kind of relationship that I want in my life.
Is it my relationship? That's so sweet, Brie. Oh, look, now she's getting all red.
Of course it's your relationship,
Thanks,
Thais.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
The one thing that's also really hard for me is that I have this goal of, really gifting the world with feminine leadership. And I feel like a lot of the women that are leading in the world don't lead like women. And so that's also one of my challenges.
All right, but I didn't ask for challenges.
I know.
Brie.
So I'm trying to think of a woman who is living an amplified life that embodies all the qualities that I want her to have, that is like leading as a woman. And
I have one.
It's a hard question. Okay, you go first.
I have one. Marianne Williamson. Oh my goodness. I think that woman is such a goddess. And, one of the things that I love, that I see in women that I love, and so because I see it in others, and it means that it's a trait within me that I want to see more within me, is I love just how unapologetic she is about her truth. I mean, she is just so in her conviction and in her power, in her message, knowing very fundamentally that it's not really about her and it is about her because she's the vessel, but it's ultimately not about her. You can tell that her ego is very much removed. And that's hard when you go up the success ladder to not have your ego get caught in. I mean, there is the yoga community, because I'm a yogini, I teach yoga, and the yoga community is laden with sexual assault charges because it can feel so easy to become a teacher and to, check out of your responsibility for your sexual energy and then have these students and be inappropriate with students. It's not easy, of course, but the natural propensity is there if you don't check yourself. And I feel like that's the way with successful, like really, really successful people. It can be very easy to get carried away with the success. And I think she's one of those people that stays really grounded in her truth and shares in a very powerful way. And I mean, I don't know if you feel like she's like a total feminine, I don't know what your example of femininity is in a leader. But for me, I feel like she is just such a beautiful example of a woman taking ownership for her message.
Yeah. No, she is a really great one. She absolutely is. I mean, I think that, as cliche as this sounds, I do feel like Oprah.
Oh, I love Oprah.
Is living an amplified life.
She is living an amplified life.
And, aside again from all of the success and the fame and the this and the that, how, one of the things I strive to do is tell the stories of other people. And she does it so beautifully.
She does.
While supporting, communities around the globe and really giving back. And I think she's probably one of
Yeah. You know, what my favorite thing about people that are successful that I really look up to, including Oprah, I love hearing their stories because none of them had it easy. And I think that's a key component to living an amplified life, is not having it easy. I think if you're having it be too easy, and I'm not talking about the internal head struggle that we all, you know, it's not easy because it's not easy to be in our heads. I totally get it. But I'm talking about external strife. When we have it too easy, we don't develop the tenacity that's required in order for us to really, really go big. Not saying that if you've had an easy life so far that you're not going to be successful, but you know that you're on the verge of greatness when you come up against external barriers. And I think that Oprah does that so beautifully. She tells her story, and it was not easy for her, and no one believed that she would be successful, and no one believed that she could do what she did, and she did it because she believed in herself so much that she didn't wait for anyone else to give her permission. She just did it. And I think that that's such a beautiful example of living an amplified life.
Yeah, definitely the not waiting for people to give you permission.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I've always lived my life, like unknowingly. Just kind of, I just do it. If I get something into my head, I just do it. I don't ask for anyone. I don't wait for anyone. I just take the initiative and I make my own path.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest thing about our business, about the Amplify Collective, is that we kind of always put the cart before the horse.
I mean,
we're always like, oh, let's do this idea. And then we just put it out into the world before we fully get the systems and the processes in place. And I think that that's very opposite to what most people do.
I think.
I mean, you know, we got to be careful. We don't want to like launch something we have no idea what we're launching. I mean, of course, it has to be strategic, and we are very intentional and strategic. But what I'm trying to say is that we don't let our perfectionist tendencies prevent us from putting something out into the world, because it's just not 100% perfect yet. And I think it gives other people permission to know, like, you don't have to have all your ducks in a row. You know what you do? You start walking and the ducks come in a row. That's how the mother ducks collect their ducklings. They don't like go and put each duckling in front of one another and tell them to stay and sit until all the other ducklings are ready.
Well, because they wouldn't.
They wouldn't, right. So you don't. You just start walking and powerfully walking forward, and all the ducklings go, oh crap, I got to follow up or else I'm going to get behind. And they do. And that's one of the things that I think really makes a person successful, is don't let little things get in the way of putting yourself out there in a big way.
I call it perfection paralysis. Just let, oh, well, I can't do it yet because of blah, blah, blah. Or I can't launch my business because my website isn't done. Or I can't do this because I don't have business cards. Or, all of the excuses that we make about all the reasons that we can't be great in the world today. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Thais and I both have the newsfeed eradicator on our Facebook, and one of the quotes is, "Tomorrow is the busiest day of the week."
Okay, so if you guys don't have newsfeed eradicator, it's a Chrome extender. Extender, is that
extension?
Right? Extension. There you go.
There's her.
Yeah, my Brazilian. See, I'm foreign. See, so it's a Chrome extension, and it allows you to remove the newsfeed on your Facebook. And oh my gosh, that's saved me so many hours. Of comparatitis. Yeah.
Days, like lifetimes of scrolling through Facebook.
And seeing what everyone else is up to in the world. And at the end of the day,
we check in on the people that we care about, and we connect with the ones that we want to connect with. And, the 2,000 people that I don't actually know on my Facebook that,
Well, yeah. And at the end of the day, you don't really need to know what the rest of the world is up to. You need to know what you're up to. Are you happy? Are you fulfilled?
Are you living an amplified life?
Yeah. And, you're the most important life that you have to lead. Take care of yourself first, and then everything else kind of comes into play. And of course, I know I'm preaching to the choir, and I know that this is my number one advice to myself, and it's something I'm always taking. But I think it's a pretty important lesson.
Yeah.
Find us.
For those of you that are new to our community, you can find us on Facebook at The Amplify Collective, and on Twitter at The Amplify Co, Amplify CO. And you don't forget, you can always tweet us using hashtag #BeAmplified with any questions or insights that you had about any of the episodes. We'll definitely be engaging with you. We're excited to hear what you have to say. And
the most important thing, really, I mean, at the end of the day, one of the more important things that you can do to support us and to support this podcast launch and really, really get this podcast out to the masses is to love up this podcast on iTunes by leaving a review. A review would mean the world to us. We would so appreciate it. And, who knows? Maybe we'll read your review online and share it with our entire community.
That's a good idea.
So be sure to check out the other 2 episodes that we have launched, and you can expect from us a new podcast every Tuesday. So stay tuned.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank all of you so much for joining us today. Thais and I are seriously over the moon about having launched this podcast. We do want to remind you that you have everything you need to lead an inspirational and badass life every day. You have it all within you right now.
Don't forget it.
Don't forget. And we'll remind you every week, just in case you do. Just listen to the end of the podcast. We'll remind you. It's fine. We got you.
We got you.
So go be amplified, and we will see you next week.
We love you. Talk soon.